Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the April 3rd regular meeting of council. First piece of business is both you members send their regrets. Rob says he's pretty sure they're studying for exams right now. So I'll call the meeting to order and ask if there's any conflicts of interest amongst the council members. No? Thank you very much for that. Okay, Mr. O'Shea.
Item 4 on the agenda tonight is adoption of a published agenda. Through you, Mr. Chair, I can advise that the clerk's office was put on notice. Councillor Vokes has asked to be added as a new business item this agenda, or as a new business item to tonight's agenda. The matter of seeking reimbursement for legal fees incurred to defend a court application that was brought forward which alleged a violation of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. So he's asking for council to add this as a new business item this evening.
Okay, so this time, if I feel this is a conflict of interest, should I vacate the chair, or are we going to allow this to happen tonight? Or isn't that the first agenda?
That's your
first agenda item, I believe.
Well, we need a motion to adopt the agenda. So the first item to consider is to whether to adopt the agenda with the addition of the new business item.
Can I just have a moment to make sure I'm doing this properly?
Can I have a point of order or a point of information? May we deal with it right now?
That's what I'm finding out, Councillor Bondi, whether I should be here or Deputy Mayor should be here. If we're going to declare this as minor and or urgent, then I shouldn't be sitting here. So if that's your wish, I'm going to vacate the chair. Deputy Mayor Malash, you come here and you can find out if it fits it. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, through your worship. Okay, so I know it's being added here, and you probably had time, Mr. Auger, to look at that or know that it was coming. So in your opinion, does it fit the requirements of being on the agenda this evening?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's not my decision to make. I can read from the procedural bylaw what the test is for a minor item and what an urgent item is, but it's either a decision of the chair or the chair has the option of putting it to council for a vote. Okay.
So I'm going to say that I'm proposing that we deal with this evening, and so can we pass the agenda then? First of all, all in favor of passing the agenda with the new business item? Carried. And then
sorry. Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, just need a mover and seconder on that motion to adopt with the new business.
Bondi, supported by Councillor Rogers. So all in favor of that motion? Carried. Secondly, we'll ask if we can move item 14, new business, up to this moment while I'm already in the chair. Moved by Councillor Bondi, supported by Councillor Rogers. All in favor? It's carried. Any comments? Councillor Vokes.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I'm not going to prolong this. I obviously was challenged by a resident in terms of the town of Essex, and again, I want to reiterate it was in capacity of a resident, and it went before the judicial system to determine whether or not I was guilty of a conflict of interest, and through the process, it was clearly proven that I wasn't in conflict of interest. I did nothing wrong in terms of the rules of conflict of interest as deemed by Judge James Carey. So with that being said, I'm just obviously asking council, recognizing I did absolutely nothing wrong as a councillor for the residents of the town of Essex, that I'm asking that I receive remuneration reimbursement for my fees, and I'll leave it at that. All of you as council members have read the paper, you're versed on the file. I know you do your homework, and so I don't have to, beat it down. I think you know what it stands for and what it is. So thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Chair Malosh. I'd like to make a motion that we cover the legal expenses for Councillor Vokes while he was acting in his capacity as a councillor.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Bondi, supported by Councillor Rogers. Mr. Auger?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just a point of clarification. The section of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act is Section 14, which allows for reimbursement in a similar type situation as what we have before us. State that council shall do so by bylaw. So if there is a motion on the floor and it moves forward, if I could ask that motion be amended to provide for council to come back with for administration to come back with an enabling bylaw.
So be it, that'll be a friendly amendment to the...
So it looks like the mover and the seconder are in favor of that. Councillor Rogers? If you'd like, yes.
Yes, I would like to comment. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. This is quite an unfortunate situation. And yes, Councillor Vokes has been found to not be in conflict in the court. However, I want to make it very clear that in the court of public opinion, both you gentlemen have done great harm to this council in the past. And in that court of public opinion, that won't go away. And I will be I seconded this, so I am supporting it. But I want to make it very clear that you have brought ridicule and shame to this council over the last couple of years. Thank you.
Councillor Snively?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, and to the public. I have to agree with Councillor Rogers. I've been sitting here for 3.5 years and seen a lot of friction. And it's just a shame that it went this far into the courts. And I hate to tell the ratepayers to their face, it's cost them $12,800 for lawyer fees. And it's a shame, it's a shame for people to act the way they did through the 3.5 years. I hope to hell we can change it and move on. We got 7 more months of this term left. This council has done some very good things, but I'll tell you one thing, there's been a lot of damage done. And I hear from the public. I'm out there in the public, I hear it every single day. It's unfortunate. This issue here, I want the public to be well aware. We do have insurance policy in place to cover this type of thing, but our deductible is much larger. So we're going to have to pay as taxpayers. And I'll make that very clear, as taxpayers. What a shame.
Okay, any further comments? Councillor Vokes?
Thank you. So again, I want to reiterate that it was something that was imposed on me by a resident of the town of Essex, and not by a mayor of the town of Essex. But I want to go on record and say this in terms of the rebuttals as it relates to my council members here tonight, my colleagues on council. The reality is they're right. There comes a certain time and a certain place in your municipal governance and your opportunities. You got to stand up and you got to be responsible for your actions. And I've committed to council and I've committed to administration, I've committed to the town of Essex that Randy Vokes, you know, is a stern, firm counselor, isn't going away. By no means is he going away. But my approaches are going to change. And they're going to change as of right now. And I say that in front of you because you need to bear witness that, because you need to make me accountable in the event that those conditions arise again. But I want to go on record and say this. The spirit of this man before you can control everything he does, from the time I get up in the morning till the time I go to bed at night. And I'm committing to this administration, and I'm committing to this council, and more than anything, I'm committing to my residents to remain firm, to remain strong, to be a strong-spoken counselor, but bear in mind respecting one another along that route. I'm going to take the high road. I can't control what anybody else chooses to do. I can't control it. It's at their destiny, not mine. But as of right now, I appreciate council supporting this. I want to thank you for that. But I'm committing to taking the high road and changing things, but my phone's still open for anybody who wants to call with concern. So council, I thank you for your endorsement of the reimbursement, and I appreciate your time on this file. If the motion is passed, assuming.
Okay, any further comments, questions? Okay, all in favor of the motion? That's carried.
Thank you, council.
And at this time, I'd like to invite the mayor back to his seat.
If I could, even because it's not, but I just want to say that there's, if it's okay, the councilors have worked on a lot of issues. I got, Mr. Snively is working on the fundraise initiatives. You got Ron Rogers, who's rejoined the team. You got Sherry Bondi taking issues. And so we're all working on things, so.
Item 5 on the agenda tonight, adoption of minutes, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held March 19th be adopted as circulated.
Moved by Councillor Rogers, supported by Councillor Snively. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.1 on the agenda this evening, Mr. Chair, is Community Services Report 2018-008. Results of request for tender for the supply of 3 trucks. That said report be received and that council award the request for tender to Ken Knapp Ford in the amount of $122,084.52, including applicable taxes.
Moved by Councillor Snively, supported by Councillor Bondi. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.2, Community Services 2018-009, Harrow Lions Club and Hall. That said report be received this evening for council's information purposes.
Moved by Councillor Bondi, supported by Councillor Rogers. Question, Councillor Bondi and then Councillor Snively.
Thank you. I just want to add with regret to that, and thank the Lions Club for their years of service to the Harrow community, Harrow and Colchester community, and it's unfortunate that they're folding, and we hope that we can do them well by using the facility to the best of our abilities.
Thank you. Councillor Snively?
To your worship, I agree 100% with Councillor Bondi. To Doug, or can answer, is anybody showing any interest in taking over this building? Any of the other service clubs, like the Kinsmen, I don't. Has anybody approached anybody to...
Mr. Sweet, Community Services?
Through your worship, we haven't advertised that this was happening. We've had some people show an interest, but I said until council makes basically until this comes forward to council, I wasn't going to ask for any input at that time, but now if we can inquire, we'd ask for something formal.
Great. And further to that, your worship,
Yes, sir.
We all know the Lions Club put on the Fish Derby down at Colchester. That's a huge, huge event, and as the council sitting here, we better look at that and maybe get involved with some of these service clubs and approach them to see if they're interested in taking over this, because this is a big event, and we can't lose it for Colchester. Thank you.
8.3, Community Services 2018-010, significant event status for receipt, and that council approved the 26th Annual Colchester Walleye Derby for significant event status.
Moved by Councilor Bjorkman, supported by Councilor Rogers. Any questions? Comments? Thanks for yours already, Larry. Thank you. All in favor? Motion carries.
8.4, Community Services 2018-011, significant event status, that said report be received and that council approved the 31st Essex Fun Fest for significant event status.
Moved by Councilor Volk, supported by Councilor Bjorkman. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.5 on the agenda is Planning Report 2018-15, rezoning application affecting 80 Mainstone Avenue West in Ward 1. I believe our policy planner, Jeff Watson, has a few words this evening.
Yes, sir. Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to say that Walter Branco from Noah Homes is here to answer any questions of council. And I think there are two people who wish to speak on the matter. They were delayed in registering, though, because of the holidays, so it would require a motion of a councillor to allow them to speak.
Moved by Councilor Snively and Councilor Rogers, support. Up to 5 minutes each. Okay. At that time, they'll be allowed to speak, sir.
Okay,
You
thank you.
want to continue?
This is a rezoning application that was submitted by Noah Homes for property on the south side of Maidstone Avenue West, just west of Bell Avenue. It's a 4.5 acre site, and it's zoned R11, which is single detached residential zoning. The application was to permit singles, semis, and townhomes. And a site plan was submitted, and the council has that before them. And copies of the site plan are actually over there for members of the audience. The intent is to build affordable housing. And as I had noted to council on the March 26th meeting, the public meeting, it's mandated by the province under the provincial policy statement that council provide for a wide mix of housing, including affordable housing, and housing for people of various physical disabilities, people of various incomes and that sort of thing. So a wide variety of housing. And the provincial mandate is about 20% of all new housing be considered to be affordable. Now, for the town of Essex, affordable is really 30% of the median income, and the median income in Essex is $66,000 as of the last census. So an affordable home would be in about the $250,000 range, or less. The public meeting resulted in 16 people attending, and a few of those spoke to council. There were also 2 letters and a petition, and expressing various concerns. And as you recall, we went through them line by line at the public meeting. The main concerns were residential density, buffering with the adjacent existing homes, the height of the units, and setbacks from existing property lines. And they were, as a result of that, council taking into consideration the need for affordable housing, basically suggested some changes to a draft bylaw that I had produced. That bylaw was basically intended to meet the requirements of the developer as far as what he needed to get zoning approval. Council looked at the various parts of the zoning bylaw, and one of the recommendations to planning was that the single-family lot size be no less than what it is today, a 50-foot frontage, that the house style be limited to a raised ranch style. In our bylaw, there's no such thing as a raised ranch, so it's a one-story with a basement versus a cellar, which is more below grade than above grade. Also, the discussion about setbacks, the normal zoning requirements for low-density residential is a 7.5 meter or 25-foot rear yard setback. So that would be the setback from that would normally be required from the lot line for the existing zoning and what was proposed, except that the applicant had asked for a 6 meter or 20-foot setback. And council's recommendation or consensus at the time was that it should remain at 7.5 meters or 25 feet. The other consideration, of course, was buffering, and there were various discussions about the kind of buffering that could be could be managed. And again, it was, I think the conclusion I heard was that a 6-foot wooden screening fence and maybe broken, as well as possible evergreen planting, could be a solution for buffering. So the report today basically outlines the overall, the provincial requirements that council is mandated to abide by. It also outlines the public response, and there's a draft bylaw which is attached to this, which basically makes the change that I interpreted from council's discussion. So in other words, a 7.5 meter setback from the existing lots on either side, and a raised ranch style of housing as a maximum building height, and various other considerations which would be covered under site plan control. One of the things that is required for any development that doesn't front on streets, and this is like a condominium or rental housing development, where you don't front on a public road, site plan approval is required, as well as a traffic impact study. So with a formal submission, should council approve this bylaw, with a formal submission, you'll see a formal site plan, you'll see a traffic impact study, and you'll see the various things like buffering approach as part of that site plan. So the recommendation from planning is to approve the proposal, but with the modifications that had been suggested by council. This would be followed up by a formal zoning bylaw, which would be submitted to council likely at the next meeting if council is in favor of this proposal.
Thank you for that, sir. Deputy Mayor Malash?
Thank you, through your worship, to Mr. Watson. I had mentioned also rear yard drainage. I said it real slow because it's hard to say. But along the piece of property that abuts the residents on Bell Avenue. That was one other thing. The 40-foot lot, I guess, would be more in tune with single-family dwellings, if we were to go single-family dwellings on this piece of property. But I can understand with townhouses, like connected houses, that you're not necessarily going to have, like the lots aren't going to be sold off, the houses aren't sold, correct? They're sold as a unit.
Yes, this is either a rental or a plan of condominium. The site plan doesn't show roads that would meet our requirements as far as a public road, so these roads cannot be dedicated as public roads in the future. So it has to be developed either as a rental or plan of condominium.
Yeah. So where does explain to me where the 40-foot comes in?
In the zoning, the closest zoning that we have today is R2.2. It permits single, semis, and townhouses. A single-family house has to have a 50-foot frontage. And the townhouses and semis are really, the bylaws really, that zoning is intended to accommodate street townhouses, where basically it'll be built on a public road dedicated to the town, and the townhomes will be sold as a freehold development. Under the R2.3 zoning, it basically is drafted in anticipation of either a plan of condominium or a rental housing plan, with the option of single family as well. I had mentioned to council that Mr. Branco had not proposed single family. I had basically, when I drafted the bylaw that would suit his needs, I also suggested to council consideration of a 40-foot lot frontage for single family. That's where that came from. But council decided that wasn't appropriate. So it was for a point of discussion as an option. As far as drainage is concerned, our development standards require that rear yard drainage be provided. Properties cannot drain into someone else's property, so basically the intent would be to capture drainage from the new development, and so that it doesn't pond on the existing properties.
So will there be rear yard drainage?
There will be rear yard drainage, yes.
Okay. The other issue that I'd like to see, and there's a space in between on the development that is on the west with the larger units. There is a space between two of the buildings, and the park is right behind. I'm wondering if somehow we could work it in that there'd be access to that park, and maybe even a walkway to get them over to Bell so that they've got a different access rather than always going out Maidstone for pedestrian traffic. The same with the development that's further to the east. At the end, there's a bunch of driveways that pull off. Is there a way that we could connect into the park so that people would have access to the park from that side, rather than having to walk all the way around down Maidstone, down Bell to come into the park.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we've already advised Mr. Branco that we would want park connections in the subdivision. As I say, the plan that was submitted was for discussion, and we have not seen a formal plan yet, because of course he's waiting for council's decision as to the overall regulations that would apply.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, that's it for me.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Oh. Okay, Councilor Bertman.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to hear from the residents, or anybody that has something else they'd like to add to this, which will probably add to our discussion at the table here.
Okay, thank you. So those people that would like to come down and speak? Oh, we haven't? All in favor of allowing that to happen? Thank you for that. Motion carries.
So through the chair, to add the delegations. Okay.
All right, we just voted. Okay. Your mic's on. Push that purple button, you're not on. Okay, and give us your name, sir, for the...
My name is John Hunt. I own 71 Bell Avenue. I was at the prior meeting at the other location, and understanding that it was zoned for, they were attempting to zone for R2.3. I noticed that this new document actually still states 2.3, but they put an H in front, which means holding. So they're basically trying to hold this at R2.3, which means that the setbacks on the rear property would be 20 feet. That's, I believe, what they're trying to do with this document. So I was just asking council, like, I don't understand why it's not R2.2 like you guys had agreed on in the meeting.
Go ahead, I'll let Mr. Watson do it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, the R2.3 as is drafted is a 7.5 meter, 25-foot separation between your properties and the back of those houses. The H is actually a hold, meaning that the zoning would go through, but no building permits could be issued until there was site plan approval as part of that package. So basically, it's to guarantee that the process I cited, site plan approval, a traffic impact study, and so on, will be done before the H is removed. Once everything is done and council has approved a site plan, the H is removed by a bylaw of council.
Second thing is on the Appendix C, it states, I'm just trying to protect myself as a homeowner, it states on rear yard depth, it states in here that where the rear yard abuts another lot on a registered plan of subdivision. I need to be assured that where I live is a registered plan of subdivision. If it's not, then that is a loophole in this document.
Mr. Watson.
Mr. Mayor, the way it is drafted is basically from what would be the east limit, against the Bell Avenue properties, and the west limit against the house, to the west, there would be a 25-foot separation. And but when you look at the site plan, you'll see two rows of housing that are back to back from each other in the middle of this property. They would have 20-foot rear yards the way this bylaw is drafted, because the concern was really expressed adjacent to the existing development, not to whatever happens, well within the property.
Thirdly is the buffering. Honestly, to be honest, buffering doesn't really work. It's just a visual. But in the document, it states 1.5 meters. That's 5.9 feet. Actually, 4.9 to be exact, 4.9 feet, which is well below the 6 foot that Mr. Jeff Watson mentioned. I propose, as an owner of the land, which I think is reasonable, that the fence be put up to at least 7 to 8 feet high, and not a cheap fence, as I noticed on, I believe it's Cranberry, which is already starting to fall down. I would like to see 6x6 posts so that the fence doesn't get all rickety and fall down. I don't know where the council sits on that.
Mr. Watson, comment.
Through Mr. Mayor, well, you will have a site plan presented to you, so those are considerations of the site plan. If you feel that any fence proposed at that time is inadequate, then that could be expressed at that time. If you feel that you want to see a minimum height as part of the guidelines that we deal with, you can tell us that right now.
Councilor Vokes, go ahead.
Thank you. Would there be, through site plan control, Jeff, and to Rita, would there be opportunity to pre-position assumably a 2 or 3 foot dirt berm and then build a 3 or 4 foot fence on top of that berm? Instead of having this huge wall of, like it's protected like Fort Knox, right? I think that would be more pleasant to look at than to have this, just a huge, and over his concerns of 7 or 8 feet, 7 feet that he's talking about. If site plan allows for that, a berm, and then build the fence on the berm, could we do that?
Mr. Watson?
Through Mr. Mayor, the normal requirement for a fence would be 5 or 6 feet. You know, higher than that, it starts to get difficult as far as construction and maintenance. The other option of a berm is also difficult because we have to handle rear yard drainage as well. And a berm and rear yard drainage are not compatible with each other.
Another question is in regards to, I remember the meeting last time, there was a lot of discussion about elderly coming into this location, this neighborhood. We timed a walk from my house to downtown, which is approximately 20 minutes. I don't know what elderly person could walk 20 minutes downtown, providing the fact that this town does not have public transportation. So I would assume that that's not feasible for elderly people to live there. Secondly, if that's the case, what is proposed to happen on Maidstone Avenue? Is there going to be a sidewalk which would be actually put in by the builder? I understand that most municipalities put that on the builder to put a sidewalk along Maidstone so that they could walk comfortably down that street without getting injured by cars, as well as lighting so that people can properly see.
Mr. Watson?
Through Mr. Mayor, council cannot regulate by occupancy or by ownership in any way. That's the straight answer. As far as the sidewalk is concerned, yes, council does have the right to require a sidewalk within the public right-of-way as part of any new construction.
That's all of my points, but to be honest with you, as a homeowner, my first preference is to not have anything behind my house. I love looking out my back window and seeing a field. But, I mean, I'm just trying to protect my home. That's the first priority for me and my kids. So I understand there's a traffic analysis that will take place, and I'm hoping that council will push that the traffic analysis is not just for Maidstone, but for Bell and Thomas. I live right at the corner of Bell and Thomas, and the traffic that comes down our street is ridiculous. And they drive like crazy lunatics. I have a 5-year-old son that plays in my front yard, and I'm concerned that at some point he's going to be hit by a car. As a resident of this town, my son and I were in a severe car accident March 13th of last year. My son spent 44 days in a Detroit hospital with 3 brain bleeds. I am in a very high stress situation in my life, and I am just up to my wit's end about the fact that now I have to spend every waking moment worrying about what's going to occur in my backyard. So I'm just presenting that to council as a resident of this town, as a taxpayer, that you guys would protect us as residents. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We had another party that would like to say something.
Hi, my name is Catherine Hunt. I'm John's wife that just spoke. I was the woman that spent 44 days in a Detroit hospital with my son. And I'm sorry. We've had 13 months of retraining Joseph how to walk and talk and breathe, and We bought a house after living in cooperative housing in Essex for 7 years because we couldn't find a house to live in. And finally, we got this house on Bell. We literally had to make an offer on the home before we saw it because there was nothing available. And after 4 years of fixing the home and sending my son to high school, my other one starting high school in September, we thought, great, we kind of have comfort level for about 4 or 5 years. And then we got this notice. So we thought, okay, how do we make do here? How do we make a plan of future here? Because we can't move, we don't have the money, we still even have to get pre-approved for our next 5 years of mortgage. And I'm looking at this R11, seeing 4.5 acres behind our yard, and I see all of this open development on the right side of Maidstone, the same side as the high school, and all of this development that could possibly be between Canadian Tire and us, and over down by McDonald's, and all of this space, and I'm thinking, what do they want with the little 4 acres in our backyard for all of the people on Bell? And right now with the zoning that's got 1.1, it's 6 homes per acre. And at this 2.2 or 2.3, they're going to 10 homes per acre. And I would have been very happy when I was in cooperative housing to find a home that was between 200 and 275, single-family home. I would have bought up on that property. And I understand the province wants you guys to have so much and so much availability, because I was looking for it myself. But I think that you're pushing everything in one little bubble of space to fix all of the problems that maybe could have been solved had you built something down at McDonald's rather than wasting so much money over there, or at Weston Bakery. And we're talking about putting disabled and seniors and, the less fortunate to be able to live there. And I get it, but I don't think that I want to have to babysit everything in my backyard. They're legalizing marijuana very soon. And we're talking about raised ranches with their decks being put right over my backyard. Not just one home, 3 homes of mine, then the Grimes beside me 3 homes, and then the owner of the property beside her 3 homes. So I'm going to have 9 people's possible decks looking into my backyard, from this to that. So I can't put Joseph out in the front because of the crazy traffic, which is going to get so much worse. And I can't put him in the back because I'm going to have no privacy. And they're talking rentals, and you know how people that rent homes don't have pride of ownership like owners do. So the people on Bell that may be moving in there, if their families, should really be owners and further back from my yard than just, in my opinion, 25 feet. Because that 25 feet isn't their property against my property. It's my lot line with that fence being to their building. So if their building is here and their deck is 7 to 8 feet out, we're literally touching. And I just don't want that in my life right now. I just can't do that. So, yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention regarding the traffic analysis is, if you are considering building like the province wants you to, all the way down my street, that traffic analysis that you're going to do now, is that even going to encompass the building that may be coming? Because it's going to be on both sides, and it's going to be very, very busy. And what do you really want to put across from a high school anyways? Do you really want that type of housing across from our kids? So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Thank you. I have Councillor Vokes and Councillor Bondy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I only want to take a moment of your time to reflect on what we can and can't do as a council, and being responsible to your neighborhood, as we have with the development in IE being over at Kimball Estates. Because your same burdens were neighborhood burdens there. And we rose to it, and we developed, and we worked with planning, and I like to believe we got the job done. There hasn't been any complaints in terms of that. There was complaints obviously about the influx of traffic and being in a school area with Holy Name there, and people migrating in and out, and using that road to get to the bypass in the morning in order to get to work, and racing through a 40-kilometer zone. And we heard all those initiatives. And we dealt with it, again, through our planning department and through council. And we as a council, we can't control purchasing of property. We can't. We can't tell people what to purchase, when to purchase, why to purchase. They simply purchase. And then when they purchase, they have opportunity as a result of that purchase to develop. And whether they develop a bar or whether they develop condos or whether they develop, homes as we traditionally know them in housing development. In this particular case, it's what you see before you. But I can only tell you, the council before you and the planning department before you will protect your interests and protect your children everywhere we can. I get that. I understand that. That's not falling on deaf ears by me or anybody sitting at this bar. So again, you're here tonight, you're hearing our positions, your husband had answers, he had questions, and he should be asking those questions, and we should be responsible and answer them, which Jeff had done. But when you leave here tonight, don't assume that we're going to turn a deaf ear to your concerns and kind of go, well, we took care of that, because we didn't. It's an ongoing process, and we will do everything working with our planning department to reassure that you and your family are taken care of along with the administration. I can't tell you anything else than that.
And I want to say that I appreciate you coming to the home. The same day I contacted you, were there in a few hours. I appreciate that. And I remember you and I talking about how you spoke to somebody that had development that was similar behind their home, and the lights were a bothersome issue.
Absolutely.
So that was another thing I forgot to mention, that there's going, I'm
Yep.
never going to, I have 4 bedrooms that are
Right.
backing onto that house because I have a similar,
Right.
side split, and I'm going to have never an opportunity to open those windows without,
Right.
so.
And I want to tell you something, and I'm glad you raised about the concern I raised with you in terms of, and for council's purpose of understanding, in terms of the lighting development at Kimball. So in being responsible to that, as a result of a call I got from a resident about it, in that, as I commit to you tonight, I seen Rita, I seen Jeff, I seen Chris seen Elk seen Chris, Elk seen Jeff, and Elk seen Rita, and it hasn't concluded yet. And the jury's still out on the commitment to do something there. So we won't turn our back. I won't turn my back, I guarantee you.
But you don't turn your back, but we lose the sleep.
I gotta stop
get it.
this. You
I'm
guys are-
good. I'm glad.
Let's, just for a second.
Yeah.
You guys are having a conversation between yous. We're kind of getting off base. This chair is still the chair. So when you talk to anyone here,
Yeah.
you're talking through the chair.
Uh-huh.
And that goes for council members also. But we're getting off base here when we're talking about them guys and that thing over there. So let's get back to our problem here. You've had your comments. Councillor Vokes, don't butt in when he says something, please. He's making his statement. We have a couple other members here who want their turn also. So here we
So-
go. Councillor Vokes, you have the floor
Thank
still.
you, Chair. So anyways, I just want to leave you with the opportunities there.
Thank you.
And I will make sure I can do everything I can to protect your interests. I
Thank you.
will.
Okay, and now I have Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair to planning. I just want to make sure that when we get the site plan, that the Hunts are notified, that it doesn't just slip by, and then we can work with them with the site plan to hopefully alleviate some of their concerns. I don't think we're going to alleviate all of your concerns, right? Like, you live in a sort of like a downtown, right? Like, there's going to be development, unfortunately. And no matter where we go, it's going to be somebody that's not going to want it there, right? But as a council, I think we are agreeing that we need more housing. We need different housing stock. So how can we move forward with bringing most of your concerns? Hopefully, we can get you to 60, 80%. If we got you to 80% of your concerns alleviated, I don't know, I'm optimistic that we'll get to 80. And that's the best we can do, is make sure we're working with you. So public notification to the Hunts, and excuse me for a few minutes, I have to go tend to my baby.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Watson.
Just in response to that, site plan control doesn't normally involve residents unless council by resolution asks that residents be notified. So if the Hunts and the Grimes and various other people wish to be notified, it would have to be by resolution of council.
Okay, thank you for that, sir. Anyone else? I just have a question of you, Mr. Watson. Like, I've had some people come to me and said, why does it have to be 50 feet? You know, I'm talking about seniors, and I'm a senior. I'll bet you I can walk that in 10 minutes without running. It's not that far from downtown, believe me. But anyways, can we not change that? At what time until when can we change the 50 to 40? If that be the case, as I'm hearing from all kinds of people in town.
Through Mr. Mayor, that, as I say, I raised that as a point of discussion at the March 26th meeting, 40 versus 50. And it was the opinion or the consensus at the time that the 50 should be maintained. But it's up to council. If council feels that a 40-foot lot provision in this 2.3 zone is appropriate, then that's what we'll do.
And my question to you would be, till when would I or anyone else have the opportunity to recommend a 40-foot versus a 50-foot?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, you can make that a part of the resolution adopting the future bylaw. Basically, if you want to see a 40-foot lot under the R2.3 zoning and as an option on this property, you can make that as part of a resolution tonight so that I can do that when I prepare the bylaw for formal approval.
Anyone have a comment? Councilor Vokes?
Okay, I want to clear the air on that, though, and help me out. The 40-foot criteria and the 50-foot criteria as requested, is that not in terms of a single dwelling home built in the middle of the desert? Am I correct in saying that?
40-foot lots are actually very common. In City of Windsor, for example, that's the norm now.
But all I want to
And-
know, Jeff, if I could, is that relate to a single dwelling development?
One single dwelling,
Yes, thank you.
40-foot frontage,
Yes.
4,000 square feet
Yes.
of lot area.
Thank you, because I want the proponents to know here tonight that in terms of the condo development, it's more of a palatable concern than the 40-foot. The 40-foot only applies to one single house, right here, 40 feet. It doesn't apply to this particular type of development, doesn't apply to Kimball's. If you were to go over to Gala subdivision, it would apply, but it doesn't apply in this case because it's not a single house sitting there. It's a trendy development fashion that is acceptable in planning thoughts today. Thank you.
Anyone, anything further? Councilor Bjorkman?
Yes, I know our developer is here, and he may have wanted to share a few words as well. If we can offer
Make
that.
the motion?
No, I think we were allowing people from the audience. He's in the audience. So make
Okay,
sure he has the opportunity.
okay, this is the third. Mr. Branco, would you have any comments or anything you'd like to say? Sure.
Council, to Mayor, Essex residents, I appreciate the comments of the residents. As Mr. Watson had said, the site plan that we have shown, it was a starting point to see what concerns there may be with from the neighboring properties, and now that we've got the information, we can gather that and develop, revise the site plan to accommodate some, hopefully most of the issues that are at hand. So just to clarify a few things, so we looked at this property, and the property's unique in size. Typically, in a typical development, you have a 300-foot wide piece of property, and in that you have a 66-foot right-of-way, which is a municipally road, and then your lots are on either side of this. However, in this situation, that's not feasible. The property is not wide enough to accommodate your typical norm municipal road, as we'd all see. And so we looked at the feasibility of how could we develop this in a manner that would fit the neighborhood, but also fit the property properly. And so this is where we've looked at different home designs and options, but under a condo corporation. We've done some research. The word affordable, as Mr. Watson had stated, that obviously is different from town to town, person to person, individually, everybody's individual income. However, we've been hearing from a lot of, because we do build custom homes in Essex and a lot of the neighboring communities, that the price points of $500,000 to $600,000 average price point homes that we've been building are out of reach for many. And we're seniors, our aging population, they're looking for something that they could move in, low maintenance, someone that would manage their their snow removal, their lawn maintenance. They don't want to have a driveway. They want to have just a common area where they can park and have a very enjoyable living experience. I've brought a few examples tonight just to clarify, and I know some of these were on display. So this would be one example, house design, where it'd be targeted more for seniors. So this is one common parking lot with units on one site, and obviously units would be averaging about 900 to 1,000 square feet. These would be, as far as the retail, these would be selling between 190 to 215 price point. And so this would be an attraction to a single senior or a senior couple who wants something that's maintenance-free, energy efficient, wants to stay in Essex, but just can't afford a $400,000 or $500,000 home like we're seeing in some other subdivisions in the town of Essex right now. Then we'd have another design. Now this is more, as Mr. Watson stated, a raised ranch design. So the intent with this home design is this attracts more of a younger family clientele, typically in the basement. And when we say basement, you're basically only 3.5 feet in the ground, and so you're above ground more so than in the ground. And the intent there is that there are approximately on both levels, you'd be about 1,400 square feet, so 700 per level. And you'd have your living space in the basement, so lower, and the upper would be where the bedrooms would be. So the concern is, Mrs. Hunt had stated, the decks would actually be at grade level. Because your living space is at the basement level, you'd have stairs, a couple concrete stairs going upward, and you'd have a patio at grade level. So there wouldn't be that typical elevated a wood deck, as you would see. Again, our target market here for a home design, now this would be like a 220 to 245 price point again. So it gives people a home ownership opportunity in the reference. Then our last again example is your common, typical, semi-detached unit that you're seeing on Cranberry or Eagle's Nest, 1,200 square foot single. But again, now you're looking at, 325 to 350 price point. Still affordable for some, but for some, it eliminates the home ownership opportunity. So we've looked at the site. We have a site plan, proposed site plan, with obviously some ability to obviously tweak and modify. We're looking at doing a mix for seniors and for young families, so that we could have an available home design and price point for the residents of Essex. Thought also we're getting a lot of calls for people that have residents that have been in their home for 30 years, and to maintain that home is just becoming, with paying property taxes and maintenance of the home, they feel I've had that comment. The last 10 years of my life, I just want something to rent. I'm willing, to pay fair market rents. I just don't want to own anymore. I don't have to be bothered. I'll just pay $1,000 or $1,200 a month rent fee, and and that's something we're seeing in similar communities where they're doing high-rise 6- and 8-story apartment buildings. I'm not so sure that that's what Essex wants, nor would fit in the site, so that's why I've considered a one-level townhouse condo on one level on one site. So if council or the residents have any questions, as far as just to clarify, I know we're not at this site plan, but it can be documented that I'm more than prepared to put in a 6-foot high fence with 6x6 pressure-treated posts. That would be a standard of my building practice regardless. So that could be, something that could be documented to some of the concerns for the residents. Also, on the east side, backing onto Bell, I'm okay, obviously, with working within those 25-foot setbacks, as council and the neighboring residents had concerns over the 20. However, on the west side and the internal yards, I'm as council, feasibility of still the 20 feet. Only because, again, because the uniqueness of the property. And with seniors, the one thing they always say, they're tired of doing maintenance. They're very content with a minimal 18-foot, 15-foot rear yard. They don't want to have just want enough for a bird feeder, in some cases a little water fountain, and it's quite, they're looking for a very low-maintenance lifestyle. On the last note, I'd be more than happy to, if any council members or any of the administration would be interested in seeing some of our completed projects in other communities, I would be gladly to allow or set up an appointment availability, and we could even look at some of the interior of the units and see. Some of these projects are 5 to 7 years old, so you'll see how longevity of the project. So, thank you. I'm here for any questions or concerns at this point.
I'd just like to pass on to you, sir, that we're trying to get sometime next week. Like, I'm only available Thursday and Friday to come down and visit some of your properties in Kingsville. Our CEO, I don't think, has heard from anyone except myself, but that could have been upgraded today. So we're working on next week sometime to come down and look at your properties. Any questions or comments to Mr. Brinkle? No? Okay. Then we are at the point where we need to receive this and that council support and authorize the preparation of a bylaw to provide for the rezoning to lands at 80 Maidstone Avenue West from R1.1 to R2.3 to permit single detached, semi-detached, and townhome dwellings, as per the report. Moved by Councillor Bjorkman, supported by Deputy Mayor Meloche. Comments to the motion? Councillor Bjorkman.
Thank you, through your worship, and thank you all for coming out again this evening. You're out during the week, and I've spoken to a couple of you on the telephone. We appreciate your interest in this and your input into it. I'd like to thank Mr. Watson for, as we're doing this up, this particular bylaw that we'll do up does have an H, a hold on it. So it allows us to take the time to make sure that if we decide to go forward, we are making sure that the setbacks are proper along Bell. I agree with that there needs to be a 6-foot fence, and I'm happy to hear you saying with 6x6s, that needs to happen. I don't like a bigger thing because at the same time, it's not like we're building a wall, and that there's connotations that come with things that are 8 feet tall or 10 feet tall. So, but 8 feet creates that privacy, and then if we can have some cedars along just to create a softer division, all of that helps. But that H designation is important because now the traffic study gets done first. Now all of the criteria need to be met that we're looking for and that you've directed us to go after to make sure that we're taking care of, as Councillor Bondi had said earlier, we want to allay as many of those fears and concerns as possible. A couple answers to a couple questions there. Why aren't we doing that across the road? Well, across the road we're in the lake shore, so we can't do anything across the road. And then down towards the Canadian Tire and those areas down there is a developer who hasn't decided to start building anything. So we can't, there's not a property down there that another developer could just go and buy and say, okay, I'll build this elsewhere. This is what's available. So in that sense, I'm happy to move forward with this and support this. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anything? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
8.6 on the agenda is Planning 2018-18, re 106 Talbot Road North rezoning, and this together with Bylaw 1691. That said report be received, that council approve the rezoning of lands at 106 Talbot Road North, and that Bylaw 1691, being a bylaw to amend 1037, the comprehensive zoning bylaw, be ready first and second time and be provisionally adopted this evening.
Motion receive and adopt by Councillor Bjorkman, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.7, Clerk's Report 2018-05, read 2018 Municipal Election Accessibility Plan. Said report for receipt for council information purposes.
Moved by Councillor Rogers, supported by Councillor Snively. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.8 on the agenda, Clerk's Report 2018-06, reappointment to fill committee vacancies. That said report providing council with a list of proposed candidates to fill the vacancy on both the Committee of Adjustment and Property Standards be received, and that council name and appoint one person to fill the vacancy on those committees.
Councillor Rogers.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move that Ray Beneteau be appointed to the Committee of Adjustment.
Okay, Councillor Snively, you had your hand up there? No. Oh, okay. Now, we have, how many? I forget how many it was. When I looked at this, I wasn't prepared to make a motion for anyone in particular unless one of those 3 or 4 people had previously been on, and I know Mr. Beneteau has. Also, there are some others that have been on that same committee, and the reason I say that is because we only have a few months left, and it'd be sure tough to bring someone in for the Committee of Adjustments, you know, so I'm not prepared to just say, I'm going to vote for Ray Beneteau. Like, I would much rather give everyone a crack at it, which would be, in my eyes, find out who has sat on it in previous years. And we have a lady on there that has been plenty of things on, that's not our committee, but a different committee, knows all the ins and outs, and I think there's a couple others, same thing. So I don't want to just single out one person. If that's what it comes down to, I'll vote the way I feel that I should vote, but I'm not prepared to just eliminate everyone else that put their name in to sit on this. And that's my comment. I'll go to Councillor Rogers, and then, I know, and I'm speaking to it. Okay? Yeah, I was speaking to it. We all get a crack. I should have let you head first because you made the motion. But those are my thoughts, you know, like, what do we do with the rest of the people? You know, say, oh, we didn't consider you because somebody else said somebody first, you know. Maybe it'd have been better if I had said this lady who I don't even know. I don't know. But that's my comment. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, through your worship. A couple of comments. I was going to suggest that somebody from Ward 2, that area, would have been nice to have, because right now we have Councillor Bondi on there who's from Ward 4. We have Councillor Snively and Mr. Dufour who are from Ward 4, or Ward 3, sorry. And we have Mr. Iatona who's from Ward 1. It'd be nice to have some representation from Ward 2 as well. So, and I know that Mr. Beneteau's been on the committee, so like you said, we only have a very short period of time. He's going to jump right into it and understand and know what he's got to do. So I too believe that Mr. Beneteau is probably a very good choice based on those facts, even though he's not listed on this list of choices that we had. So, thank you.
Lori, Mrs. Brett, would you like to speak with regards to the last comment?
Yes, after we, thank you, Your Worship. After we sent out the package, Deputy Mayor Malash, I sent out a message just confirming that one person had to be removed from the list, and that Ray Beneteau had confirmed that he would like to be considered. So it was a late submission. Everyone else had gotten back to me in time to meet the deadline.
Okay, anyone? Oh, Councillor Snively.
Through your worship, I have to agree with the deputy mayor. We do have myself and Percy, and we have Sherry from that end. We need somebody in Ward 2, and Mr. Beneteau is quite familiar with drainage. He is a farmer, and there's been different situations where we did a farm split where the drain was right at the edge, and we had to make adjustments. Jeff, you're familiar with a couple of them, and I think Ray is the guy that is familiar with drainage in this situation. So I think we're making the right choice here. So.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries.
8.9, Infrastructure and Development, 2018-04, results of request for tender for supply of winter control equipment and supply of tandem plow truck cab and chassis. For receipt, and that council award the request for tenders as follows. As to the supply of winter control equipment to Viking Sieves Limited in the amount of $107,214.33, including all applicable taxes, and to the supply of the tandem plow truck cab and chassis to Team Truck Centers Limited in the amount of $143,989.38, including all applicable taxes.
Moved by Councilor Bundy, supported by Councilor Snively with a comment. Sir.
Your worship, to Chris, the truck, we're replacing that one truck that we did buy from the county. Is that the one, or is that's the one we're going to replace, right? Okay, thank you.
Anything further? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.10, Communications Report 2018-01, purchase of new chain of office. That said report be received by council this evening for informational purposes.
By Deputy Mayor Melange, supported by Councilor Rogers. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.11, Drainage 2018-03, appointment of a drainage engineer to prepare a report on behalf of the Essex Region Conservation Authority for a new pedestrian walkway over the Essex Outlet Drain. For receipt, and that council appoint the engineering firm of Root Engineering to prepare said drainage report.
Moved by Councilor Bjorkman, supported by Councilor Snively. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.12, Drainage 2018-04, appointment of a drainage engineer to prepare a report for a new access culvert over the Ballard South Malden Road drain. For receipt, and that council appoint the engineering firm of Root Engineering to prepare said drainage report.
Moved by Councilor Bonney, supported by Deputy Mayor Melange. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.13, Drainage 2018-05, appointment of a drainage engineer to prepare a report for a new access culvert over the 8th Concession West Drain. For receipt, and that council appoint Root Engineering to prepare said drainage report.
Moved by Councilor Snively, supported by Councilor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.14, Drainage 2018-06, appointment of a drainage engineer to prepare a report for a new access culvert over the James Shepley Drain. For receipt, and that council appoint the engineering firm of Root Engineering to prepare said drainage report.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Melange, supported by Councilor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.15, Economic Development Report 2018-005, RE Ontario's Main Street Revitalization Initiative. That said report providing council with the next steps and an overview of the initiative recently established via MAFRA be received.
Moved by Councilor Bonney, supported by Councilor Bjorkman. Questions? All in favor? Oh, question. Councilor Bjorkman.
Thank you, Worship. This is great news for all the centers to get this, and I know everybody's going to have different ideas. We're talking with the BIA and the Chamber of Commerce, and Nelson's been working with them. I think what we try to encourage people when they're working with the CIP funds is don't just do something you were going to do anyway. This is money that we've received that gives us an opportunity to either a statement piece on the streets. These are for our downtowns or for our districts. So let's think a little bit outside, a little more than maybe what we would normally have done, This is above and beyond what we were going to do this year. So let's, each center, the smaller centers are getting 9,000, the bigger ones getting 18,000. Put some thought, put some time into it, and let's do something that it stands out, and people can see what it is that we've invested this in. So that's just my thought on that.
Okay. Councilor Bondi?
Thank you. In talking to administration and chamber, we're going to schedule a meeting in the next couple months and start doing just that.
Thank you. All in favor? Motion carries.
8.16, Economic Development Update Report. That said report providing council with an update on development within the town of Essex for the months of January and February 2018 be received.
Moved by Councilor Snively and supported by Councilor Bondi. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Sorry, just give me 1 second here. Sorry, just give me a second. I'll just move on to the next. 8.17, Chief Administrative Officer Verbal Report, Re-extension of Integrity Commissioner Agreement. And this was resulting back from Bylaw 1468. That said verbal report seeking council's approval be received and approved.
Mrs. Hunter, say you.
Through you, Richard. Just to report back to council, we did issue an RFP for Integrity Commissioner. We only got 2 responses to that RFP, one of which was our current IC and another firm that really wasn't suited to the project. There was subsequently a joint RFP issued in the county by some of the other municipalities, and they had about as much luck as we did. And so at this point, because we're getting so close to the end of this term of council, we're asking for an extension of the current IC's agreement until the end of the year, at which time, during this time, we will go out. We are doing some background work and trying to invite some people to bid on this, but we just need to have that in place in the interim so that we have an integrity commissioner.
Been moved by Councilor Snively, supported by Councilor Bondi. Comments, questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.18, Chief Administrative Officer Verbal Report, Re-update on Planning, Building, and Economic Development Offices and Facilities.
Mrs. Hunter, thank you.
Through you, Your Worship. At the request of Sherry, our Councillor Bondi, just want to give council an update of where we are in terms of renovations, either Gusto or whatever, to accommodate the building, planning, and economic development. While we kind of have some ideas of how we were going to do things in Gusto, we are also right now thinking outside of the box and looking at what we could do in the Essex Town Hall to see if we could accommodate everything there with renovations. So we're just in the process right now of getting some drawings done up to see how that would work. We've found we have some operational issues with Gusto currently, and I don't know that those will go away if we were to put everything down there. So we're just trying to look at everything, and we'll come back to council.
Any questions? Councilor Snively.
Worship, to Donna, that's good. At least we're looking at the whole picture here. It's always nice to have everything under one roof, okay? So if we can accommodate it at our town hall here, I'm more in favor of that. So if it can work out there, I'm sure even in the old council chambers, we do have room there. So if we can convert that over, and but that's up to administration to look at and come back with a report. But I think that's a great idea. If we can have everything under one roof, it makes more sense. So, thanks, Donna.
Councilor Vokes, and then Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you. Just real quick, I thought we used our council. I thought I went in there. Wasn't that office space we're using? The council chambers? Didn't I see somebody in there the other day?
Mrs. Hunter?
Through you, Your Worship, but we've been using that for a student space.
Oh, okay. All right. Yep, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Malash.
I was going to move the verbal report.
Okay, and supported by Councillor Snively. Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When administration has crunched some more numbers and done some more layouts, can they please bring that back to council? The reason I'm asking is because I'm a little confused because twice now, council is given direction to go ahead in Gesto. And now twice now, we're going the other way, which I'm not opposed of looking out of the box and thinking out of the box. I just want to know if I have another 106 grand to put somewhere or something, right? So I keep thinking we're in Gesto because twice we've given direction to go to Gesto and now we're thinking of something else, which I don't really see how we could fit any more people in town hall. And I want to put it out there that we need a new town hall and the new term of council should take on that task pretty soon. It is very apparent, and I invite anybody to go through our town hall because it's the saddest state of affairs in the county. But of course, nobody wants to touch that in election year, but that's really the elephant in the room is we need a new town hall.
Just to make a comment with the $106,000 that you want to do something with, I get the next $106,000, Councillor Bondi to do something with. Just a little fun. Favor the motion.
Item 10 on the agenda, any update from County Council this evening?
Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, through your worship. Just something I want to bring up. Back on March 23rd, County Council had agreed with the City of Windsor to put a bid into the 2018 Smart Cities Challenge. We've been involved in this before, and those involved believe that we have a very good chance of, being our second attempt. We came very close last time. That this time we may be successful. So some of the things that it does engages with the community and stakeholders in order to understand their perspectives and concerns and ideas. So there's three major items that they want to look at to try and put forth some kind of proposition as far as how we're going to approach becoming a smart Windsor Essex. That's through addressing poverty, addressing health concerns, and addressing employment in our region, both Windsor and Essex County. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because they're looking for feedback from our residents and from council members, administration, and the project team's looking to all of us for their feedback on these above three focus areas. So again, poverty, health, and employment, to help prioritize a list of options and to help shape Windsor Essex's challenge statement. So there's a dedicated website that's been created, and you can find that by visiting, just as it sounds, smartwindsoressex.ca, all one word. Smart Windsor Essex, all one word, .ca. And this space will share information, give you updates, and affords our communities accessible options to participate in the opportunity to present your ideas on how you think we should move forward. So I would encourage our residents in the town of Essex, I would encourage our council and administration to take a look at this website and try and help out in making our communities better, making us smarter than what we are already. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Looking for a motion to receive Deputy Mayor's verbal report. Councillor Bjorkman and the Mayor. All in favor? Motion carries.
11.1 on the agenda, correspondence to be received. That the correspondence listed in agenda item 11.1 be received, and we're indicated to further share such information with the community using suitable methods of communication.
Motion to receive all of them, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Anyone have any they want to make comments or questions about? Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To our Director of Finance and Business Services, I don't know if, I sent an email and I know it was busy weekend and I don't know if you've had a chance to review it, but 11.1.5, AMO policy update. In that, it said that there's a cost to municipalities It's the 1/3 tax-free exemption for municipal officials. I know it's going to cost me because I'm going to have to pay more income tax. That's fine, but it says that there's a cost to municipalities. I don't know if how. And if you know a how, can you please share that how?
Mr. Morrison?
Through the chair, we calculated it roughly today, and it's based on CPP, EI, and EHT. So that's approximately $5,800, $6,000 impact that we would have at the municipality. The amount that they quote in the AMO correspondence, I believe that includes OMER's contributions also. So.
Okay, thank you for that, Councilor Bondi. Any further questions? Councilor Bondi?
Thank you. I have another real quick one for 11.2.1, the correspondence from the Greater Essex County District School Board.
Oh, that's our next item.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm ahead of myself.
Are you ready for the question? All in favor? Motion carries.
11.2.1 on the agenda is correspondence from the Greater Essex County District School Board asking council to consider using their authority over land use regulations to create land use controls on cannabis production facilities for medical purposes and cannabis retail stores in order to limit proximity to school facilities and to establish a process to inform school boards of any potential sites for receipt or receipt and support.
Councilor Rogers and Councilor Snively with questions. Anyone? Councilor Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through reading this, they have several things that they would ask of us, and I want to see if they have more definition on what those things are. They said they don't want a retail store near a school. Well, what does that look like? Is that 1 kilometer? Is that 2 kilometers? And I don't know if we already have that in our zoning, but that would be something I'd want to know. And also, I think that this leads us into another conversation that we're having where the federal government is giving out medical marijuana licenses for people to grow their own marijuana, but we're running into issues in communities when people are growing marijuana in a community, which I'm not opposed to, but they have to be so many feet away from 300 feet away from another house. So I don't know if we need to meet with our MP to review some of these guidelines, but there's definitely some cleaning up we have to do here. And I don't know the solution to the problems, but something has to be done. I don't know if our CAO has any more insight or planning has any more insight with the schools.
Mrs. Hunter?
Through you, Your Worship. I do know that we've had a lot of discussion on the whole retail, the whole dispensary. We've had today discussion on grow-ops. There is not a lot of information out there, and we are delving right now to see what can be done. So we certainly are on top of it as much as we can, but a lot of this has not been developed very, very well at this point.
Councilor Bjorkman and Councilor Snively.
Thank you, Worship. Just along the same lines as Councilor Bondi, I think one of the things we don't have to worry about as far as what they're looking for is where we want to allow retail. There's a lot of other things out there, but retail is something that we can affect. And we can say that we don't want it within X amount of room for a nursery school, a public school. Those are things that we can do right now while the rest of this carries on and they try to figure out exactly where they're going. But I would like to see us have something that says a retail store in Essex Center, in Harrow Center, in Colchester is away from our schools and away from our parks where our kids are, to keep it in the business area. So I don't know if we can ask direct administration to go ahead and start to do something on that level so that we ensure once the retail sales is out, that we have some control over where that retail outlet is.
Mr. Watson, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We do have regulations as far as the production of cannabis, and that's a 300-meter setback from a dwelling, for example, and 500-meter setback from a residential zone. As Donna is saying, we are currently investigating that with a solicitor to see how it relates to the licensing that is being issued by Health Canada and where the priorities of enforcement go. Is it Health Canada? Is it us? Who does it? And but as far as retail sales is concerned, of course the province has established the LCBO as the decider as to where these outlets are going to be as far as which municipality is concerned. We haven't heard anything as far as the criteria, though, as to how they select a site in that municipality. Now, no Town of Essex municipality has been selected in the first phase or in the second phase. They also are going to create their own enforcement arm as far as the handling of retail sales. So if someone opens up a store in violation of the provincial rules, their enforcement arm, not the OPP, will be dealing with it.
Thank you. Further, I'll finish. Okay, all done?
Thank you. Question?
Yes, sir.
Through you,
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, to Jeff. Are there similar restrictions on liquor stores and beer stores? As to where they can be located, proximity to schools, et cetera, et cetera?
Yep.
I honestly don't know the answer to that.
Councillor Snively?
Through your worship, we're in a situation here where the province is involved, the federal government's involved, municipalities involved. We have our bylaws in place, and we have one situation that I'm working on right now, a resident where the grow-op is within 100 feet from his property, 2 greenhouses. So we have a bylaw in place here that they have to be 300 meters, okay? But legally, he's licensed, okay, for the operation. Municipally, he's illegal. So this is a situation we're running into grow up medical marijuana. So I just want the public to be aware of that in the media. So it's quite an issue, because when you have people calling you, well, we had the one in McGregor, so we dealt with that.
Councillor Vokes?
Thank you. I just, in terms of the correspondence they sent to us, I want to take opportunity to reiterate to the Greater Essex County School Board is where they're kind of asking us and reassuring us or making sure we do this like we wouldn't. If you know our planning department in terms of Radin, you know our planning department in terms of Jeff. If you looked at the file they just handled tonight and the other meeting we had in terms of this new development, how they directed and corresponded with the people here tonight on this current file, I think they would have probably just upon themselves identified to the school that there's an intent or an opportunity to put a retail store there that would have this type of opportunities. So when the school board sends us to that, if they watch what our planning department's doing and they understood that, they probably wouldn't send this, because they do their homework, they dot their I's and they cross their T's. I don't find it offensive that they send it, but they need to know that what our planning department's really like, and they wouldn't have done that. And I just want to go on that with everybody here on the record tonight. It would have never happened on their watch, I believe. So.
Okay, anyone else? All in favor? Motion carries. Did Councillor Rogers and Snively, I believe, moved and supported, receive and supported, I heard? I did. Okay. Thought so. Or Councillor Snively? Yes, sir.
Just, Mr. Mayor, as a point of housekeeping, if council agrees, and if Councillor Snively has any announcements or reports, maybe he could make those before he goes, if you have anything.
No.
Okay, he doesn't have anything.
Sure. Thanks for that.
11.2.2, that the, is correspondence from the Town of Lakeshore, that the Town of Lakeshore correspondence inviting the Town of Essex to provide input and comments regarding short-term and long-term vision of the dog pound and possible name change of the facility be received and supported.
Moved by Councillor Bondi.
Receive and support with
supported by
comment, too.
Councillor Bjorkman, Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As council knows, I sit on the dog pound, the Lakeshore Dog Pound Committee. I would really like council to have some brainstorming sessions around other service providers that we could possibly use. The dog pound is okay, but there may be other options, and maybe we could go out to tender other options and see if there's a more progressive option that fits our needs rather than a dog pound. So I think this is a good exercise, but I think that there might be an exercise before that we look at maybe tendering to see if there's anybody else out there. Windsor just tendered, as you know, Amherstburg just tendered, so other communities are looking around and doing this too.
So do you want to just receive this? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, no, we can support it.
And support it? Okay. All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 12, that the minutes listed in agenda item 12, together with any recommendations, be received and adopted as circulated.
Moved by Council Brundy, supported by Council Rogers. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 15, notices of motion. 15.1, the following notices of motion were presented at the March 19th regular council meeting and are being brought forward for consideration this evening.
We have a motion here by Council Rogers. You have the floor, sir.
Yes, my motion is that the town of Essex engage an engineering firm to develop the required engineering to reconstruct Snake Lane in Ward 3. I'm looking for a seconder.
Yes, sir. Looking for a seconder. Councilor Bondi, any questions? Comment? Councilor Rogers.
I would like to point out that Snake Lane, I've been on municipal councils since the 1990s. Snake Lane has come up every year as a problem road. I was going to say child, but as a problem road, and it would be, let's be the council that takes the bull by the horns, gets the engineering done so it's engineering ready, so if there's infrastructure money down the road that is looking for engineered projects, we have one on the shelf. It's about time that this is looked at. Snake Lane is a municipal road that is gravel. However, the traffic counts on Snake Lane are much higher than the average gravel road, which would indicate that it is seen by many people as the way of travel between point A and point B for them. And it needs our attention, and it should get done. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilor Bjorkman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't disagree. I've driven the road. You know that I spent some time out in that area now, and it certainly needs to work. My only concern right now is we've set our budget for the year. We have our projects done for the year. Does this need doing? Yes, it needs doing, but this is a budget item. I don't know if there's something we can do to just to look at the scope of work, get an engineer together that, you know, for 2019, we get this on the program, but we've already taken a full road construction out of our budget, out of the 5-year plan, in order to make sure that we've got money just to do scrape and paves on some infrastructure that we're trying to do underground work with. So as far as like this year saying, let's engage an engineering firm, I won't be supporting that. I know we need to do it, we need to get ready for it, but as far as a budgetable item, I think we're talking tens of thousands of dollars here, and I don't know where we've got that. Thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, through your worship. I'm of a similar opinion. I think at the time of budget is when we should have had this discussed, because there were a number of projects that we put on a priority list as far as where we want them done. And this is something that I know that has to be addressed at some point in time, but I don't see it happening in 2018. We are in our last 6 months or 7 months of this term of council. I believe it's something that the next council is going to have to address. We haven't done it to this point, other than, you know, trying some various types of maintenance on the road to try and make it better. But nothing seems to work well on the road. But I think that, and I know that we've talked about this in in other years, and it is a project that keeps getting pushed out. As Councillor Rogers has indicated, since back before amalgamation, that road was an issue. And I believe that it's the next council that will have to take a look at this, because we set our priorities already for what we want to have done with roads over the course of 2018. This was not one of the items that we were addressing, and all monies are spent. We don't have a pot of gold that we can just say that we're going to use it towards this, and I do believe it's going to be tens of thousands of dollars to have this done as well. Before I would even approach this, I'd want to have, if we were serious, I would hope that if there's enough persons to move forward on this, and council believes that we should move forward, I would like to see something come back from administration before we actually pass this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Vokes?
Thank you. I got to agree with Ron in terms of, because I too, and when I look around the room, some of my colleagues on council, we've quarreled with this for the last 14, 15 years. This is one of the first things that hit our bar in all of our first term of election, and it's been going on ever since. So I agree with Ron in terms of getting something that shows whether it's us responsible or the next council responsible, what they're looking at to fix that road, because it's just good, it's good political and good governance to keep the ball moving forward. I don't know if stepping back and ignoring it is a progressive thing to do and really say, let's let the next council worry about it, or can we didn't budget for it. And my point is that, like all things, sometimes we micromanage. And I don't know if we need to micromanage, and I don't know if we need an engineer report. But we should have something that would, in pretense, say, estimately, this is what you're looking at. Nothing profound, but when you consider drainage, when you consider base coats, top coats, ditching, whatever, if you're in the engineering game, respectfully, I don't think it's you're reinventing the wheel. You know how much it is per kilometer or mile to do a road today. So you go down there and you measure it off, you go, it's X amount of miles, that's how much it's going to cost. I know an engineer report would profound it much deeper, but in terms of what we're looking in budget, whether it's us or somebody else, they have that information at hand now when they go into those deliberations, and hence, in terms of Ron's concern, it expedites the repair process. And I don't assume it to be a big cost if we work within ourselves of doing it. Or opportunity Chris may have to say to somebody, and I being some excavating company we work with, what do you think it would be ballpark? That's all we want, ballpark. I think that's all he's asking for. So it shows we're proactively recognizing it and we're proactively approaching it.
Councillor Snively.
Through your worship and to council, we're all well aware of the situation on this road. I see residents here tonight. The Hankas are out here, and I've talked to them before. We had on-site meetings out there to try to do something on sections of that road. The problem there, before we even start with anything, is drainage. And the drainage is such a huge problem there because of the water table that's underneath that road a foot down. We have a tremendous amount of quicksand there, and maybe Chris can talk on this issue when it comes to, like I discussed this before the council meeting tonight with Chris, and we all know, and I'll say it to the Pankas out there, I've talked to you before on the situation, if we can't do nothing with that road until we correct the drainage problem. And the drainage situation there is going to be a tremendous cost, and I've already told the residents out there. Now, if the residents are willing to pay for drainage use, we have no problem doing it. But at this point here, we should be in line, or try to be in line for grant money that comes forward to roads, okay, for road work. But we're not going to do that road. The average cost of tar and chip is right around $150 $100,000 or $120,000 per kilometer. Am I right, Chris, at that number? About 120? Somewhere in that for tar and chip. For us to tar and chip that road without doing drainage, it's worthless. It'll bust up within the first 6 months. It'll be done. We have to do the drainage. So I'll leave it at that. And I hope you respect what I'm saying there.
Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if we do the drainage, then that section of the municipality falls under the Drainage Act. Does it not? Like, would the drainage, my question through you, Mr. Mayor, to, I think, our Director of Infrastructure is, if we do drainage on that road, is it assessed to the individual landowners? Because that's something we need to talk to them about. And that's my first part of it.
Mr. Nepsey?
Through your worship, yes, it's something that we would go through the Municipal Drainage Act to clear up the drainage on Snake Lane. The road would pay their fair share, whatever consisted of, as far as drainage from the road, but homeowners assessed into that would also pay as a user pay system. So definitely, as Councillor Snavely has said, drainage is probably the biggest concern there first. Drainage, then property alignment, road alignment, and then lastly would be the road construction and the type to deal with the base and the quicksand and the issues that the constraints are there. So there's quite a hefty cost to that in terms of construction, in terms of getting it engineered. You know, that's something that council can look to. Just a note is that we have a section of road on Irwin engineered, shelf ready for grants already. So there is already something on the shelf in terms of having one of those projects designed and engineered.
Okay. Your worship. Okay.
And further to that, I think I'm a little torn because I've been on the soapbox preaching about Snake Lane for a while too, because it has been an issue. It has been graded poorly in the past, and it's a difficult road to grade. I think we do need to wait until the 2019 budget, unfortunately, to have any budgetary conversations about this. Once in a while, something happens where a road comes in under budget and administration comes back to us and says, you know, we have $50,000. Is there something else you'd like to do, another road we'd like to put in? That's happened a few times since I've been on council. So I don't know how we're going to get the money to get an engineering firm. I don't know what the cost is. I don't know if anybody has an idea of what a cost is. I would say probably $30,000. I'm not sure, like how much was, so we're not talking like a really small amount of money. I think the biggest thing right now, because if I go to some of the residents on Snake Lane and say, we're going to fix your road and we're going to make it perfect, they're like, we don't want that because we don't want higher numbers. We don't want more traffic counts. Like, so the people that live on Snake Lane don't want more traffic through it, is what I'm told from the people I know on Snake Lane. So I think it's a new term of council project. I do, because the people going door to door, canvassing, campaigning for the election will get an earful of what those residents want. Because if we follow the drainage engineering report and we enter into the Drainage Act, everybody that lives there is going to be assessed into it, and they might not like that either. We almost need to have an open house about Snake Lane with the new term of council, and then take it from there and say, what do you want to see for your road? These are the options. This is what it's going to cost. This is what it means to you. I think it's too big of a project to tackle this late in the term.
Thank you. Councillor Rogers, you're the wind-up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On a couple of those points, one being the traffic counts. There are already more traffic on Snake Lane than there are residents. People are using it as a thoroughfare, even though it is a gravel road and it's awful to drive on. They see it as a convenient road. So it does have the traffic. And as far as money, yes, it is a budgetary item usually. However, in the last couple of months, we have flirted with a number of expenditures that were not budgeted. I'm not going to allude to what they are or that whether or not they were approved or not approved, but we have flirted with it, and that money was coming from somewhere which hadn't been identified at that time. But the money, if we wanted to do the project, the money was going to be there. Thank you.
Okay. Ready for the vote? All in favor of this motion? Okay, got that. Opposed? Motion defeated? Okay.
Fifteen point 1.2, that upon receipt of the executive summary of the workplace assessment of Essex Fire and Rescue Services, that council be provided the opportunity to review the original document in its entirety prior to implementation of any proposed changes or actions, preceded by the signing of a confidentiality agreement by each council member, as moved by Councillor Rogers.
Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe this is an important motion. This is an event or
Just a point, I'm sorry, a point of order, we need it seconded. We need that motion
yes,
seconded so
sorry.
that he can speak to it.
Thank you.
Oh, that's right. Thank you very much for that. We need a seconder for Councillor. Councillor Vokes, support. Councillor Rogers, thanks.
Thank you. I just wanted to make clear that this was an initiative of this council to move forward with this report and actually expand the report when requested. The council has been fully supportive of this, and to keep it away from council members is wrong. And if council members that do not wish to see it, if they do not wish to see it, they should not censor the ability of others to see it on council. I'm not saying that it's going to be shared by the councilors that do review it, but it's an important important document, and if there are councilors that wish to review it confidentially, then they should be allowed to without the interference of other councilors saying no. Thank you.
Okay, I have Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move to table Councillor Rogers' motion until administration and council have the in-camera meeting to discuss the matters that administration wants to bring back. And then after that meeting, council can remove the motion from the table and discuss it then.
Okay, we have a mover to table. Do we have a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor Malash. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Motion by Councilor Bondi is carried.
15.1.3, that all of Essex be included in the Community Improvement Program area, and if need be, that the monies be taken from the landfill reserves to fund it, as moved by Councillor Vokes.
Councillor Vokes, your motion, sir. Okay, do we have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Malash. Councillor Vokes.
Yes, I'm not going to prolong this. I think it was just a mere request to see if there was money in the landfill reserve in order to cover consideration of doing this. That's all. That was all I wanted to know that given night. So it was asked that we move it to this meeting, so I'll just ask tonight, is there money in the how much is in the landfill reserve, and is there opportunity to tap into that in order to improve our community? And if I could direct that to Jeff or administration, whoever they choose to answer it.
You got Mrs. Hunter here.
Sorry, through you, Your Worship. I think typically when there's a notice of motion, we don't generally have all the information that you're looking for because we're not sure of all the information that you're looking for. I think in this case, you're talking about a very large item. I think I would prefer that administration come back to council with some information on this, as well as expanding the program, because I think as our planner mentioned last time, you have to have justification for this, and I don't think we've heard any justification at this point from council in terms of why we would expand this at this point. But having said all of that, I think we need to come back to council with information about what's in that reserve, because there's parts of that reserve that are already committed to other things, and then council can discuss from there, if that's okay, Councillor Brooks.
I'll acknowledge that. I'm fine, as long as I can get an answer eventually to what's in the landfill reserve and can we use it, right? It's not like they're going to start building, well, they probably would start building tomorrow, maybe some of them if they could get, but I'm okay with that.
Okay, anyone else? Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, through your worship. I would certainly like to hear a report back from administration on, get the ball rolling on this but again, it's something that we didn't discuss at budget time. And I know that Councillor Vokes is suggesting taking it from reserves, but we could do the same with with Snake Lane. We could do the same with a number of other projects. But I'm going to be consistent here, and I'm going to say that I really do believe that this is something that we should be looking at in 2019, rather than doing it immediately in 2018. It'll give administration the required amount of time. Maybe we can give them some direction when they come back and say the costs and so on. I do want to see this moving forward, Councillor Vokes, as you and I have had discussions on this, and we believe that other parts of the community should be included in the CIP, but it may take on a different look. It may be, and I've had conversations with other councillors that say maybe it shouldn't be called a CIP, maybe it should be just called programming for other parts of the community. But I'd like to see the conversation begin, but actually no dollars actually committed to it at this point in time in 2018. Maybe just give us a rough idea of what dollars we may be looking for in 2019 to make this happen, so that we can be prepared for the budget in 2019. So that would be my spin on it.
Anyone else? Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think kind of similar along the lines of our deputy mayor, but I think we need to look at our budgets a little bit differently too, because what we've done is we've budgeted on asset management, and we already have a 2% increase in 2019 for asset management. So we have to go, this is a new term of council initiative, I think, too, because we have to go and we have to have a strategic planning session saying, what are the priorities in the next term of council? And maybe it is, rural business, supporting rural businesses. And I'm not sure if a CIP would be adequate, because when we had original training and planning around CIPs, they were community improvement areas. They were sections, they were continuous sections where you had to focus your monies to get the bang for your buck to see improvements on things like urban blight, right? Like it's hard for us to be everywhere and to be everything for everybody. So I think it's a new term of council initiative, and it's got to be something that is supported by the community and is supported by the residents in terms of a service need, because everything we're starting to think of is asset management. And so how does this fit into managing our assets in budget? And I can be convinced, I'm just not there yet. I think it's too high levels, just same as Snake Lane for this term of council. And I won't be supporting anything that pulls more than our 80% that we've pulled out of the landfill reserve. We've pulled out of the landfill reserve to fund infrastructure. I'm not going to pull out of the landfill to fund projects. As much as we all would like to, that's there for infrastructure. We're going to have that landfill around for a long time, and I want that reserve to be around there a lot longer than the landfill is.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Before we go, Councillor Vokes, for the last one, if there's no one else, maybe I'll turn my gavel over to the deputy mayor, because I have a couple comments. And you want to change, or just, that's okay.
Mr. Mayor, as a regular member of council now, if you'd like to speak.
Yes, I can't support this motion the way it's made. Like the whole municipality, like you've all said, pretty well all said, how much money are we talking about? Like CIP plan over the whole town. Wow, can't believe that. And like that landfill money is sacred to people before I was here, before any of us were here. Deputy Mayor Melange, Councillor Vokes, before any of us here. That money is sacred to the town of Essex. People like Wayne Miller, Donna Hunter, like a lot of people from the past put that there so we would have it one day. One day, our government isn't going to have the dollars and cents to hand down to us. And that's what Mr. Miller looked at probably 20 years ago, whenever the landfill became the landfill in Colchester North, and we got to respect the decisions that those people made. And it wasn't as soon as I got my shot at spending that money, to make myself look good or whatever. That's not what it's there for. man, respect is what I want to do. Respect what the people did before us, the same as we battle Essex Windsor Solid Waste Authority, which I've been on for a number of years. We defended that landfill against the city of Windsor and Toronto. Councillor Bondi with her family, the signs, those people all came out there supporting the landfill for future generations. Not for 5 years from now, it's for our grandkids and our great-grandkids. So I'm going to vote against this motion. That's it. Thank you.
Councillor Vokes, and then Councillor Rogers.
Thank you. The initiative of controlling,
He has the last word. We have a motion on the floor, so that's why I asked. Anybody else?
I'll give you last word.
Sure,
Okay.
that's fine.
So Councillor Rogers.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Malash. Just a point of clarity, the landfill reserve goes back much further than the amalgamation of this town. The landfill reserve goes back to the negotiations of Colchester North and Colchester South with the landfill committee at that time, and the town of Essex or Essex Center inherited it during amalgamation. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? We both spoke.
So Councillor Vokes wants to speak.
Okay, Councillor Vokes says.
Thank you. I'm not going to prolong this, but I don't know how we can make decisions respectfully as a council if we don't know what's in the reserve. Right? Because the compounding interest daily, and I can tell you, there's millions in there. Right? There's millions. So the compounding interest could support the initiative of the CIP alone. Believe it or not, as crazy as that may sound, but look, if council don't want to pursue it, then I'm one person, I'm one vote. So I don't know where we're going here now. I don't know if it's the position of council to say, let's not pursue it because it doesn't fit at this place in time, recognizing where we're going, or if council's saying, well, I still got a willingness to see the numbers and then do the comparables and see if it makes financial sense. And all I'm suggesting to council is you can afford your opinion, but in good governance and good diligence, see the numbers and see what it means to the CIP program and how far it takes us out onto the limb before we just instantly decide here tonight without having an opportunity to see the real numbers in front of us. Because I don't know how you can decide without knowing that and seeing it and knowing it. And in terms of that money, it was never respectfully Mr. Miller's money. It was never Donna Hunter's money. And it was their proposals and their suggestion, their initiatives that got us where we are. But ultimately, it's the taxpayers' money. It's their work that defined it to be there, but ultimately, it's still the taxpayers' money, and we represent the taxpayers' money. So thank you, council. So whatever council wants to do, your call.
Okay, Mr. Roger?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to have the opportunity through the chair to confirm with the mover and seconder the motion as amended now is for administration to review and report back.
That's all I'm asking, but I'm getting a vibe here. I'm getting a vibration that's maybe not what we should be doing. So if council concurs with just seeing it, and by the way, just for the record, I don't want administration to spend weeks, minutes, hours, days on it. Just a brief, here's how much it's there, folks, and here's what it looks like in compounding interest, and here's what the CIP program looks like. That's all. Simple as that. I want Randy's layman answer and not Jeff's accounting answer, which I get confused by. That's all. Can I say that respectfully?
Well, I may be out of order, but I'm not sure of what I'm voting on here. And neither is Council.
Give a report from administration.
No, we have a motion on the floor first, sir. And here it is. I can read it to you. Exactly what I just said. I cannot support this because it includes the community improvement program area of the whole municipality and the reserves to come from the fund. And I can't support that.
Well, that's okay.
But that's not what you just said to the clerk.
Well, no, it is.
Yep.
It is. Yeah, it is.
On this one.
Yeah, please, that's all.
But the one he's talking about now, is it not different?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe it has been amended on a friendly basis by the mover and seconder for administration to review and report back on the feasibility of all of Essex being included in the CIP, and if need be, monies be taken from the landfill reserves.
Yes, thank you, Rob.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
it's not this one. That's what I'm saying. We're not voting on this one, you changed it. No, he says no. Am I right, or is he right?
I know that.
That's not what
I know. Yes, that's all. Right, no, I'm not saying to do it. I'm just saying let's find out how much is there, that's all.
Okay, here's the question. I don't know what the motion is. Do you want it read?
You just read.
All in favor of the motion? Opposed?
Thank
The
you.
motion carries.
Thank you.
No comment, please.
I just said thank you.
I know you did. You thanked her for voting no, and that's out of order.
Thank you for voting.
Item 16 on the agenda, any reports and/or announcements from council members this evening?
Okay. Councilor Bonnie, we'll start with you.
I'm being tested.
Thank you. On behalf of Councillor Snively, Thursday, April 5th, he is with council's support, inducting Terry Wright into the Agricultural Hall of Fame, and that's in Harrow at 7 o'clock. So if you're out and about in Harrow, you don't need tickets, you can just walk in. On issues that I've been working on lately, well, I watched the county council meeting from the other night, and I just want to point out that our deputy mayor from the town of Essex, Joe Piketty from the town of Tecumseh, Al Fazio, the deputy mayor from the town of Lakeshore, and Nelson Santos, the mayor of Kingsville, all spoke very positively and very progressively on the issue of daycare and in AMO. So, and our deputy mayor, I thought, did the best job. So it was good. And Kimber Beek, who's sitting in the audience, had another point tonight saying that what if grandparents go to conferences and grandparents are custodians of children? Because that happens, right? Something happens in the family and grandparents end up raising the children. So it could be applicable not only to young people at conferences, but to older people at conferences, which I thought was pretty cool. So, you know, when other towns from far away send us notices that they don't support it, it doesn't hurt my feelings as much as the warden of our county. So I really feel that there's a privileged position out there, and this daycare battle that our council has supported the issue on and supported primarily myself on is really something that we need to look at. And I love the comments that the deputy mayor made at county council saying that we want to encourage young people to run. And I think that if you're between the ages of 18 and 45 or 50 on council, the daycare at AMO is just one of the smaller battles that there are that we encompass. So I'm really proud of our council, and this won't be the last of it that you'll hear. Rose City Politics did a little clip on it. There was a clip on it in the local paper. The Windsor Star obviously did a clip on it. And I'm going on Rose City Politics myself tomorrow night as a guest panelist to talk about this issue further. So I won't stop until we take down more of those barriers. I've been talking a little bit with Councillor Vokes, and he said that we should expand the scope to include daycare at committee meetings and council meetings, and I'm not opposed to having that conversation too. I've got calls from other councillors in the region. I've got calls from lawyers in Windsor supporting me, and there's another motion that came forward from one of the other councils saying that they're looking at daycare for their committees and for their council meetings. So I want to put the vibe out there that when you say that you don't support an initiative that doesn't cost anything to you, that doesn't cost anything to the taxpayer, when the warden says that he doesn't support it, it tells me that my voice on council doesn't matter. It tells me that when you're the age of under 50, that your voice doesn't matter. It really does. To me, it does. I don't know what you're laughing about, but that's what it does. When you say that my wife watched the kids, not everybody can bring a wife. Not everybody can bring a husband. Not everybody has extended family. If you do the cost of bringing a nanny, that's $400 a day. You look at the FCM prices for daycare, it's $35 a day. It's affordable. It was good. I'd pay $100 a day. Because bringing a nanny means a hotel room, sharing my car with them, buying them meals, then paying them. I'm looking at $500 a day or $400 a day anyways. So my voice matters, and I'm going to keep fighting down those barriers to make sure that in 2018, anybody that wants to put their name in their hat, whether they be 85 or 19, that they feel welcome. And this council is great. They're really, we get it. And I think we get it because we're faced with the reality. And I apologize that half the time I have a screaming baby in my hand, but I just want to say for all the people out there, my voice matters, and I feel like I belong here. So thank you, Essex Council, and thank you, Deputy Mayor, for speaking on our behalf at county.
Councilor Rogers. No. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, through your worship. I have a couple of items. So first of all, just want to let everyone know that on Thursday night, as well as Terry Wright's induction into the Agricultural Hall of Fame out in Harrow, that the Heritage Committee at the train station has their annual general meeting, and at that meeting they're going to be electing new board members. If anybody's interested in being part of that committee, that's the night to come out. It's Thursday night at the train station, this Thursday night at the train station, April 5th at 7 p.m. is the start time. So if you have a desire to be part of that train station legacy, come on out, and your help would be more than welcome. Or if you want to sit on the board, or if you want to sit on some kind of committee there, they would appreciate the help. Also, another good community organization, the Essex Regional Goodfellows, is having their annual general meeting at 6:30 p.m. on this coming Monday night, April the 9th. It's at 6:30 p.m. and it's at the Essex Fire Hall here in Essex Station number 1. We're looking for more volunteers to come out and give their time as directors. It doesn't require a lot of time. There's 3 meetings that we ask members to come out to in a year, possibly a 4th one if we have issues that go on in the winter. But there's 3 meetings generally, and for such a great cause, every year that it's been in existence for the last 14 years, we've been able to give money to 4 of our local food banks. The St. Vincent de Paul Society in McGregor handles a lot of the food situations in that area. The Harrow area is serviced by St. Vincent de Paul as well. And here in the town of Essex, it's Salvation Army and the Essex Food Bank. So if you have time that you'd like to serve on a board that does some good in the community, that's come on out and help us out. 6:30 p.m. on Monday, April the 9th at the Fire Hall in Essex. Also, another good cause. Sorry,
Rich, what day was that?
Monday, April the 9th. Another very worthy organization that helps those that are less fortunate and are in need of food is the Gleaners organization out of Leamington. They represent our local area here, and I just had something that I wanted to. So what they do at the Gleaners organization is they make nutritious food. What they do is they take unmarketable fruits and vegetables that would ordinarily be disposed of, and they're donated by local growers. And the Gleaners volunteers carefully prepare the produce to be mechanically cleaned, diced, dried, and bagged, so that all you have to do is add water to the mixture, and you have an instant soup or an instant meal. And they serve right across Ontario, but they also give to the food banks here in our local area. And it's a good way to volunteer with them. But what I wanted to announce was that they do have their Gleaners Dinner fundraiser, and it's out in Leamington this year. It's on Saturday, April the 14th. If anybody would like tickets, you can contact me. I will make sure that I can get you some tickets. So thank you, and that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. Councilor Vokes. Councilor Bjorn.
Thank you, Yours. One thing I just want to bring up is, was in the minutes, but the ACT Committee has relaunched the Arts Excellence Awards. Submissions are being accepted now up until May 28th, and those submissions can be art pieces, music, writing, dance, photo, anything through the arts, and it's open to our 7 municipalities in Essex County, not just the town of Essex, but all of our municipalities. So there will be a juried exposition, and there'll be winners chosen, and there's pretty good prizes, and your artwork will be put on display at a couple functions coming up this year in the town. So you can go to the website to get the submission forms. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. And I just have one thing, I'm not too sure what it is, but it's on the 9th, next Monday, Deputy Mayor Malash, you will be dropping the puck for the AAA, what are they, Mr. Sweet? Bantams, Pee-wees, that big tournament that we put a lot of money into.
I believe it's the Pee-wee for Sun County.
Sun County Pee-wees, and these teams are from all over Ontario, right? And there's 9 or 10 of them, a dozen of them. You know, these are the class Pee-wees in Ontario, and we have them in our arena, not the city of Windsor or Lakeshore. We have them in the Essex Twin Pad Arena. So come out and support them. Deputy Mayor will be dropping the puck at 6:30 on Monday, April the 9th. So that's all I have to announce.
17.1, bylaws for third and final reading this evening. 1688, to confirm the proceedings of the March 19th regular council meeting.
Moved by Councillor Vogel, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
17.2, bylaws for all three readings this evening. 1692, to appoint a manager, human resources for the town of Essex.
Moved by Councillor Rogers, supported by Councillor Bondi. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
1694, for three readings, to authorize an agreement between the province and the corporation of the town of Essex, and this is related to funding under the Rural Economic Development Program.
Moved by Councillor Bondi, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Bylaws for two readings this evening, first and second reading. 1695 being a bylaw for the declaration of surplus lands by the corporation of the town of Essex for first and second reading this evening, and with third reading to be received at the April 16th regular council meeting.
Moved by Councillor Rogers, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
And 1696 for two readings this evening to confirm the proceedings of this April 3rd, 2018 regular council meeting.
Moved by Councillor Vogel, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries. And adjournment. Always in order. Carried. Have a great evening.